Come on into God's house.
Balls and a butthole. You're a comedic genius.
Can't goddamn lay down on the floor in your own house. Ow.
You want to film it.
Yeah, well.
We're the blunt people, y'all.
Trangus.
Trangus time. It's Trangus time.
Oh man, I am so
Oh,
excited.
what we got?
Oh, this might actually mess you guys up a little bit. I'm excited. So today I would like to talk about a parasite.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's not a financial one either, is it?
No. It's a protozoan, Aaron. It's a single cell parasite. So what it is basically, it's what's called an obligate intracellular parasite, which is just like obligate means it needs other animals to complete its life cycle, and intracellular just means that it grows within the cells of other animals, right?
Is it smaller than my like blood cells?
Yeah. So it's that's actually, I mean, I would assume it's smaller than your blood cells since it's intracellular, but I actually don't have like a number of microns wide it is or anything. Okay. But basically, it's one of the most common parasites. We just kind of don't think about it. It's capable of infecting almost all warm-blooded animals. 1/3 of humans, they say about 1/3 of humans have been in contact with it, which is to say, if the four of us gave blood and had it tested for antibodies against this, at least one of us would have had been infected by this Toxoplasma Gondii. I think I called it Toxoplasma Gondii earlier. It's Toxoplasma Gondii, and they always shorten it. Yeah, 2 eyes at the end. Gondii. They shorten it to T. Gondii. I'm going to call it Toxo because that just feels cool. I want to add a little bit.
Does anybody else call it that?
Toxo?
Yeah.
I've heard people call it Toxo. It's like more casual. Maybe? Toxo's like more casual. It's like, you left the lab, you went out for a couple beers, and you're like, hey, remember that thing we all got, Toxo? And they're like, huh? Gondii? Yeah, let's just call it Toxo, though. It's after work hours, right? So
it sounds more dangerous when you call it Toxo.
Yeah.
Well, it might be real
I like
dangerous.
that too.
Continue on.
Yeah. Just trying to add a little element of danger to it, right? Like even in the Seventh Dildo Outlaw Bar, there'd be a special nook that we would call the Toxo Nook, and it'd just be full of cats. Because
is that where I'm getting it?
By the way, are the definitive host. And what that means is like these parasites can only reproduce inside of cats or felines, but just because house cats or cats in general are the ones we're most in contact with, that's usually where we're kind of getting it from. So I'm going to explain the life cycle to you, and then I'm going to get into my favorite part. So the life cycle, basically, this is how they exist.
Can I pause you?
Yes.
Is what a person get, like, do you contract toxoplasmosis from this?
Yes.
Okay, I've heard of this before.
Yes. Toxoplasmosis. It's actually, especially if you're going to be pregnant, they always tell you to stay away from cats and not to change kitty litter. And this is why, right? Because that's a very easy way to get it. And it's usually not going to affect people very much. There's something called acute toxoplasmosis, which is basically like when you first get it, you kind of like run a fever and you have a lot of like flu-like symptoms, but it's not really that bad.
Grow a fluffy pair of whiskers?
No. You just
you
feel
don't
real
turn
sick.
into a cat.
No. Here, let me explain more. You guys will get to. I don't want to like bury the lead of where I'm going with this, so you guys are just gonna have to like really stick in for like a couple more minutes until I can get there. So
something better be a cat soon, bro.
Bro, it's never gonna be a cat, Chase. I'm sorry. So the cats basically they reproduce inside of cats' intestines, and then the cats like poop them out, right? So
right.
From there it spreads to like soil, water, and food, and it's contagious within a few days. So if you do have cats and you're worried about it, as long as you're changing that cat litter every day, it's not going to be a problem. Although I will say I've never met anyone with cats who changes that cat litter every day. You're gross. You're gross people. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't smell. So they're contagious within a few.
Care of it.
They're contagious within a few days. So these like little oocysts, it's basically like one cell, and then within it, these sporozoites is what they're called. It just starts like replicating all these sporozoites inside, and so that's what makes it contagious. So that way, if you were to ingest it somehow by like accidentally touching like cat poop, which it's probably pretty hard for that to happen unless a cat, I don't know, touches anything in your house. But yeah. You get it, your stomach wall will like break down the cell wall of that oocyte and then dump all these sporozoites into you, and then they go to your intestines basically, and they hang out there and they just kind of like they invade cells in there, and then
Travis,
why
are you doing this?
Because it'd be upsetting.
Look at the faces of your friends. Look at how you're making your friends feel.
Yeah,
we feel yucky and bad.
We're only halfway to the bad part.
Oh Lord.
So these
what? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We can have a real talk about what the goals are of this podcast.
The goals aren't to just upset people. All right. So the sporozoites then turn into these things called tachyozoites.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And then the tachyozoites can actually move around your body. So that's usually like when you're talking like acute, that's when you have acute toxoplasmosis. You don't feel good because it's all in your blood. And then eventually, if your body's immune system kicks in, it actually shuts those down, and they turn into something called proteazoites, which is like dormant. So they get into like your skin, like your muscle tissue, and specifically your brain and eyeballs. And they just like form these little tiny cysts where they're just kind of like, instead of like propagating like a virus, they just slowly divide like a cell.
I hate this.
Yeah.
More blue people. Do something that I couldn't get. Do something.
Look, you guys, it can't all be incest.
Turn them into a blue cat. Make them.
You gotta have your vegetables with your incest, guys. All right. So, and then consumption of these tissue cysts is one of the main forms of infection. So, if we take humans out of the picture, because people are usually talking about humans in this.
I'd like to be taken out of this picture.
Right. So let's just take humans out, right? Okay. Let's think of cats and like how this evolved with cats. So
they lick their butts.
Right. So cats poop. Other animals will get somehow get that poop in them, on them, around them. But specifically,
that's their business. However
hey man, I don't know if you've ever seen animals. They're pretty loose with it. They're pretty. I had never seen a cat wash his hands. Really, they lick them, but they ain't washing them. But basically, if like prey animals, specifically mice, if mice get this and rodents get this, it affects them differently. So what happens is when the parasites migrate to their brain, they specifically start affecting the parts of the brain that have to do with like a lot of behavior type stuff. They make them more
carefree.
They make them less scared.
Little party mice.
They don't care, man. These mice are just like, hey, man, what's even the problem, bro? And they also, it like weirdly makes them interested and attracted to the smell of cats, specifically like cat urine. It actually, they can see through the studies that it lights up the parts of the brain in mice associated with like sexual activity or like pleasure. Yeah. So they become real like sex freaks about cat piss. They're like, oh, just piss on me, cat. And then so it makes it really easy for the cat to then eat them. And then once it eats them, the parasite can finish, like that's where the parasite reproduces, is within a cat, right? So that's where they want to get. But that's the cycle, is it has to get out of a cat into another animal, then back into a cat. That's what it's trying to do.
So it just happened to be mice, but just any animal that it might have got into now is like totally into cat piss.
Okay, now this is where it gets really cool. because mice are the one we can
I
really
don't want to
study,
be into cat piss, Travis. Tell me it can't happen.
Chase, buddy.
What's the cure?
Right? Please
Look,
just
I'm
be
gonna
a
be
pill for this one.
no. Well, see, here's the thing. We probably all have this, and it's not a big deal.
What?
It's just dormant in our system. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. They did studies. There's towns around the world where as much as 85% of the population has this like in them. You know what I mean?
Gross.
Yeah. It's just there. You can't do nothing about it.
And I know this is a risk for pregnant people
Right,
to get it
right.
while you're pregnant, but if you've had it before, you're clear apparently.
Right, because so the way it's supposed to work is once the immune system kicks on, the parasites go into like the muscle tissue and form these little cysts, and then supposedly then the animal is eaten, and then the cyst parasite makes it back into the cat's stomach, right? So it can reproduce. So really, it's not as dangerous when it's as much when it's in the cyst form. But if you're like immune compromised or something like that, you're not going to have an immune system to like kick it down. So immune compromised people and pregnant women, because if it gets to the baby in the first trimester, it'll almost always kill it. In the second and third trimester, you'll have a lot of like encephalitis and like a lot of brain-based epilepsy, a lot of like issues like that. Like it's a big problem. So that's why they're like, they test for it though. They're pretty strict. It's a very rare thing that this happens. That doesn't usually go down like that. All right.
Listen, Travis, I was having a nice little time periodically muting myself and eating my slice of pizza during Chase's segment.
Yeah.
And now I have this whole slice of pizza here getting cold because I'm so yucked out by your tiny little protozoates.
Well, Aaron, I would say that's what you get for trying to eat during a podcast.
Well, Travis,
Well,
that's fair.
Yep.
like all I
should have
got
known I
from
was
the
going to
whole-
talk about weird stuff, and I'm not done yet because here's my favorite part.
Why do you sound like a
There's
threat?
more?
He said, "Oh, and I'm not done."
Oh, I'm not done. You bastards.
Oh, there's more.
You
where
best
that
friends
came
of mine.
He's
You
Billy.
fucking
He's
sit
Billy
down.
Mays in this toxoplasmosis right
from.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about behavioral differences because
Let's talk about it.
yeah. Toxoplasma gondii is known for being like, one of those brain control parasites, and there are a lot of them. But depending who you talk to, people like to kind of like, there's a lot of people who are like, this isn't a factor in the way people act, and other people are like, this totally is a factor in the way that people act. So I'm just going to read what I have on the behavioral differences of infected hosts, and then we can chat about what we think that actually does. So there's many instances where behavioral changes happen. The changes in rodents were seen as a reduction in their innate dislike of cats, which made it easier for cats to prey on them. And then they did an experiment on the rats, and the infected rats showed preference for the cat odor versus like a rabbit odor or something like that. And so that's an example of the extended phenotype concept, which is like your DNA basically has you, I don't know how to explain this well enough to you guys. The idea that the behavior of the infected animal changes in order to maximize the survival of the genes that increase predation of the intermediate rodent host. Okay, probably going to cut that out.
No, keep it.
Yeah, there's also differences. There's also differences in sex-dependent behavior. So it affects.
We're still talking mice.
Yes, still talking mice. It affects men differently. So men, it infects them worse.
Men,
basically.
Mice.
Yeah.
I would say males, not men.
Okay, so this is actually going to be shown to be
Dude,
true.
mice. Okay.
We really are talking about of men and mice, aren't we, folks? Little John Steinbeck action here. No, I'm slipping up because later on they found out it's true for human men too. Yeah. So males had or infected males had higher levels of testosterone, and infected females had significantly lower levels. Then when you look at humans, infected men scored lower on like super ego strength and rule consciousness, and they scored higher on vigilance, so like a little more paranoid.
Like a cat.
But this is all correlation, by the way. This is not direct causation, so we can't say with any kind of certainty that Toxo does this to people's minds and makes them act these ways, because that's what's tough about behavior. But there is a correlation between a lot of these things. So men were more likely to disregard rules, and they were more expedient, suspicious, and jealous. On the
Let's
other
say
hand,
the rule that you shouldn't eat cat poop.
and no one
willing to
ever set out to
disregard-
eat cat poop, Aaron. Eating cat poop just happens, okay? It's part of the human condition. On the other hand, women were more warm-hearted, outgoing, conscientious, and moralistic. So you guys actually got to be better people when you got infected with it. Mice with Toxo had worse motor performance than non-infected mice. Infected adults performed much more poorly and lost their concentration more quickly than the control group.
I just pictured like Stuart Little just like driving his like motorcycle off the road.
Just crashing.
Like I pictured him driving drunk that little car.
Yeah. Correlation has also been observed between the presence of Toxo in humans and increased risk of traffic accidents. In fact, infected subjects have a 2.65 times higher risk of getting into an accident. They did this study in Turkey too, and it was the same. Not in Turkey the animal, but Turkey the country. Scientists in the country Turkey did this study. The parasite has been associated with many neurological disorders such as schizophrenia, and it's also higher in people who were suicide attempters, and higher associated in women over the age of 60. But again, these are all things where it's like, is this correlation between Toxo and these things, or is it like different effects, right? So it's probably multiple things. Like if you have Toxo, you're probably also in a couple of these other boxes. So that's why it's important to say it's not caused by, but it seems to be a factor.
I think you work for Toxo. You can't prove Toxo is the reason that people are eating cat poop. You can't do it. It's not the reason. I hear big Toxo coming out your mouth.
No. Don't you dare try to swift boat me like this, Chase.
We all got it. It's totally fine. We all have it. It's just a normal thing. Like 90% of people
herpes.
have it. Just kick back and enjoy the Toxo, baby.
I just wanted to make a strong point about not conflating correlation and causation, because that's a lot of the problems that we have with people's misunderstanding of science nowadays. Is correlation does not equal causation. And there's a fun little mental game to play to remember that. It's everyone, whoever confused correlation with causation wound up dead. So you can't conflate the two. It's important not to.
Is that it?
I have a little more. Let me see if I actually.
Is it important?
You guys hate mine. You don't like my segment. Oh no.
It's so yucky.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing that cats kill babies. Like that is what I got from the most.
And
here we go.
If
Here,
a
this is what
guy
I wanted
eats
to.
cat poop, he gets real horny and wild.
Likes catfish now.
This is the part I wanted to say. Research on the linkage between toxo infection and entrepreneurial behavior showed that students who tested positive for toxo were 1.4 times more likely to major in business and 1.7 times more likely
do work
to
for
have
Toxo. Why?
emphasis in management and entrepreneurship.
1.4% does not seem like a significant.
No. It's not. A lot of these are garbage statistics. I just
that's funny. I thought you said 1 out of 4.
Well, no, but what they're trying to say is there's also one where toxo exposure was correlated with being 1.8 times more likely to have started their own business, which isn't high. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to show that in the same way that like mice don't have as much of a fear response and it makes them more risk taking, that this seems to kind of do the same thing in people, even if those numbers aren't really showing it. So yeah, to put a button on this and wrap it all up, there's a parasite in cats that controls your brain and makes you crazy cat lady and makes you love cats. Cats control us. They control the entire world. We all have this parasite. It's swimming around in your blood. You can't get rid of it. I'm so sorry. It makes you schizophrenic. It makes you
it makes you start a festival on a small island that you sure is going to go off without a hitch.
Yeah, but the important thing for me to say is like also like 1/3 of the population has this, so it's like a little overreaching to say that like it really like changes people, because it's more accurate to say that it is kind of a part of what our society is at this point.
Wow.
We just are Toxo.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that was stirring. Like, Vanessa?
Next week, are we going to get blood tested for Toxo and see which one of us has it?
Oh, I hate it. We're all going to have it.
We're going to have it.
I don't know. I stay away from cats. I might be okay. Like, everything, like, I kept switching back from, like, I probably have it to I don't have it. Like, increased car wrecks, like I was like, fuck, I might have it, and then I was like, no, I think I'm good.
No, but you're correlating, you're mixing correlation with causation. You have a lot of traffic
accidents.
Travis.
Well done. What a
good job.
Nice thing to talk about.
Everyone had a bad time.
Did any of you guys notice that I changed my screen name on here?
I did. I noticed, but I didn't want to.
I didn't see it.
Interrupt.
It says I don't have Toxo.
Amazing.
Okay.
That feels like misinformation.
So I would be, if you would start off and been like, there's this like this cat thing or what, like if you just started off with that out of 5, but you threw too much science at me at the beginning and it got gross, and it was just I didn't know where the light was. Because I know you would just keep telling us gross shit. Like that's the thing about you, is I know you would have just done 25 minutes of the nastiest shit ever.
Yeah, just to please himself.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't mind taking a risk. He's so happy. Look at that face. I wish I would have screenshotted the moment when me and Vanessa and Chase were all in like a deep yuck face, like scared, and Travis was just gleefully talking about tiny cysts.
But wait,
I'm not even close to done. All right, should we?
Part's my favorite.
So these rats like to fuck cats or something.